Well, a very good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you, wherever you might be in the world. Welcome to the channel, or welcome back if you're a returning visitor, and thank you very much for being part of my journey. So, just a brief outline for newbies to the channel. When I make my videos, I try to make them as informative as I can, give you a bit of education, a bit of personal experience based upon my buying experiences and the uses when I've used them. If I don't have any personal experience, I'll often give you information that has been given to me by other people. And when it comes to the geological information, I am not a geologist. I try to give you the information I've got. It may or may not be correct. And therefore, I invite everybody, the more we pull out information, the bigger or the more expanded our own knowledge can be. We pool it. And so I invite people to make their comments. For today's video, we're going to be talking about Ruby Zoisite, which I haven't personally used, but I've seen it, known people that have worked with it, and I've more recently bought my own with the intention to using it as well, and at least keeping it as part of my collection. What else can I say? Oh yes, if you're new to the channel, I can tend to go down a waffle every now and again and be a bit extended. So what I do is I put timing chapters in there because I know that my videos can be long, and you can then just jump to the area of interest to you. And it also helps you if you at some future date buy a crystal and you want to come back and see the information, you could just jump to what it is that is of interest to you. Now, in the meantime, I'm going to crack straight on into the content, bearing in mind I have an Australian accent and I speak fairly quickly sometimes. Um, you can slow the video up or speed it up depending on what's going on by using the controls. You can put it 1.5 speed or whatever, and they're on the YouTube channel. You should see it there in the settings. So when I'm talking about ruby zoisite, I'm talking about this lovely green crystal that has got the pink and the black in it. It's a powerful combination of the two minerals, and apparently was first discovered in Tanzania in 1949. The red is actually deposits of ruby, and the green is, oh gee, I've forgotten already. It's going to be, we'll talk about that in the mineral information. But either way, you can see it's an interesting and very pretty looking crystal. I'm just checking my notes as I'm talking to you. Oh, duh, I'm such a tool sometimes. The green is the zoisite. You'll have to excuse me, I haven't refreshed myself on the notes before I get into it. And I'll explain that to you in a moment because I actually had it mislabeled to start with. But anyway, it is a popular crystal from a metaphysical perspective. So when it comes to the astro, there are people that will recommend it to be used by people with the Aries star sign or the Aquarius. The bottom line is, if you are a returning visitor, you already know that my position on the astro and crystals is basically, if you feel drawn to it, you feel that you need it, then you buy it, you get it, you find it, because at the end of the day, we all have vulnerabilities, and I believe the concept behind these recommendations for particular star signs, the links between them and the crystals, is because of the character traits that are associated with the astro or personality, and where the zodiac link comes in is because somebody somewhere has decided that it might support people of these star signs. Now, bearing in mind, Aries is actually a fire sign and Aquarius is is it water? No, it's air. Okay, so it's an air sign. So air signs tend to be a bit off in the head, where Aries, being a fire sign, can be quick to react. So there is that anger, perhaps association, the passion or lack of passion, if they become drained and that kind of thing. But either way, just to reiterate, use whatever crystal you find that you're drawn to, regardless of your star sign. If you're not an Aries or Aquarius, don't let that deter you from using ruby zoisite. So regarding the chakras, it's believed to activate the heart chakra and the base chakras. The reason I say base, you don't always see this, because everybody's got a different opinion about how a crystal will interact with the chakras. I'm actually aiming to do this Sunday yarning and talk about how I work out what a crystal will do and how it can support the chakra system. I would also say that when it comes to ruby zoisite, it actually supports, goodness me, the higher heart chakra. And when we talk about the root or base, I also believe the earth star, okay? So sometimes the root chakra, in some images that you look at, it's going to be black. So it's either black or it's red if it's base chakra associated. However, there is a however with this, okay? I believe that ruby zoisite is also associated with the earth star, which also, it's primarily brown, but it sits beneath the feet and connects to Mother Earth. But we'll be talking about the metaphysical properties shortly. Now, ruby zoisite also goes by the name of nihilite. That is its proper name. Hopefully I've pronounced it correctly. But because it's a combination of two crystals, you've got two different hardness ratings for it. The ruby, which is the red and the pinkish tones, that apparently has a mineral hardness of 6, where the nihilite, the green part, has 7, a hardness of 7. So when you're looking, when you're buying, you're going to be able to tell the difference between it. And this is one of the things I had a bit of an issue with when I bought this, because this kind of steps into my buying tips, but it was mislabeled, and I knew that it was mislabeled, but I was a little confused as to whether or not the product that I bought was ruby zoisite or ruby fuchsite, and I had to do more research to make sure that I was labeling it correctly for when I was selling it. So anyway, it comes in shades of green. It has some black, as we see here, and it also has the reddy pink color. They are going to vary in shades, and I will be showing you some information in the buying tips. So it is opaque, it's not crystal, it doesn't become transparent, where if you hold it up to the light you can actually see through it. As far as I know, there's no toxicity to it, and I think that it's probably found in other places besides Tanzania, but I'm really not sure about that. So if you know of other locations other than Tanzania, please do let us know. Now, what was the other thing I was going to say? It is formed apparently within the last 540 million years. I mean, that's pretty impressive. From a metaphysical perspective, it's considered to be a very powerful healer and a stone of new beginnings and a rebirth, if you don't mind. It's associated with spiritual growth and expansion, connecting and unifying the mind with the body and the spirit. So there's a level of balance with that, and that includes actually yin-yang. And it's said to connect a person to their higher self aspect. It's supposed to support relationships, helps a person to develop, as I stumble over my words, and form these healthy personal bonds. That's whether it's romantic or whether it's simply social connection. It's definitely recommended for people who are all off in the mind, which is probably why it's recommended for the Aquarians, because they definitely are. Some of them, if they're too off in their mind, too much thinking, overthinking, that kind of stuff, they can struggle to relate to other people, certainly on an emotional level. So it's said to support those relationship benefits. It's said to encourage self-discovery, looking at self and doing the reflection and bringing the subconscious to the conscious. And when we're doing that, of course, sometimes it can be challenging to look pretty deeply into the mirror. So it's supposed to support going through this process. An interesting thing is it's also recommended for those people with terminal illness, or if they don't have it themselves, if they've got somebody close to family or home or a loved one that's actually going through the process, because it's said to, as I stumble over my words once again, to support this processing and dealing with the issues of life and death. And as this powerful healer, this is apparently one of the most powerful crystals for going through this process and for heart healing. So it purifies the layers of the aura, particularly the emotional body, and it promotes a positive outlook and attitude across all of them, the mind, body, and the spirit, transmuting any dross, which is darkness in the aura, transmuting dross and negativity through to positivity. So these images that I've got here, they're actually of the product that I bought, which was actually mislabeled. It was labeled as Epidote and it didn't mention the ruby in it at all. And the photographs of the product that they were promoting to me, you couldn't actually see the pink or the red. I've managed to get a better shot of that myself. So where I'm going with this is I've got learning experiences now through taking my own photographs of it, and that is that the colour doesn't come through true. Even I tried it in different ways, with and without a light. And I'm just giving you this information so that you know when you're buying, especially if you're buying online, the reality is you're not really going to get a true impression of what the crystal looks like through a photograph. Which probably supports the idea that you actually go into a shop and handle the product yourself when you're buying. So, what I'll point out to you is that yes, we can see here that the crystal is green, it's got the black in it, and it's got the red. The green, however, is the one that's problematic to photograph. So, when we look at this image here, it looks the green of if we're looking at the central image, the green on that tower on the left hand, second from the left, actually looks almost as green as the background of the grass here. Well, I can assure you that's not the case. It doesn't look like that, and I actually haven't been able to capture the type of green that it is. The other towers have more of a verdant green. Possibly, maybe we might call that an olive green. The one that's second on the right, second on the left, in this image here, as I stumble all over my words, is basically not that bright, but it is brighter than the other ones. Now, I bought these crystals from China, okay, so quite commonly I find that they will misname products from China, and therefore, as I said before, it was marketed as Epido. Clearly I could see it wasn't Epido, all right? But I did, as I say, have a few questions about whether or not it was ruby zoisite or ruby fuchsite. So I decided to put up in the buying tips here some images. So the ruby and zoisite, you can see I've really tried to outline what ruby and zoisite might look like and to give you some buying tips here. So the image on the right-hand side is a palm stone. I'd like to think that the white we're seeing on this is actually flash because I can't imagine what else it would be. There are other aspects of it that clearly are the ruby zoisite. And what defines ruby zoisite from ruby infusionite is actually the way the ruby forms within the base crystal, if you like. So I've got the image of it in the rough, the small one. You can see that the ruby in this one is actually quite solidified into a circle. There is also the ruby in zoisite that looks like a palm to me, not a palm stone, tumbled stone up the top. And you can see once again that you've got the black in there and you have a solid red bit, even though it's not circular. When we look at ruby fuchsite, hopefully you can see that the green is much paler. I mean, that's going to come in different shades anyway. When you buy your ruby in fuchsite, it's probably going to have a darker green to it. But the fact is that when we look at the ruby has a white circle around it. And that is what defines ruby in fuchsite from ruby in zoisite. And not only that, ruby in fuchsite doesn't have black in it. So that's how you tell the difference with what you're buying. Now, beyond that, the other tips that I can give you is the image of zoisite, ruby zoisite in the rough, which is down the bottom in the middle. I question whether or not that's been wet or oiled, because sometimes the sellers online will actually moisten them to show the colours off, to enhance that. I don't like it. I can actually say that straight up. I do not like getting my crystals sent to me if they've been oiled, because they're greasy and I find it a little bit revolting actually to get oiled crystals arrive to me. But anyway, I do understand why they would wet them. And that is because, like I say, it enhances the colours. If it's got stripes or spots or circles or whatever, you can see them more clearly when a crystal is polished or when it's moistened. So beyond that, as far as buying tips go, obviously, one, you've got to know what you're buying if you're looking for something specifically. And the other thing is, you've got to look, if you're buying from overseas and importing, you've got to pay attention to what the price is and currency conversions, freight charges, and all those hidden costs. And because it can be deceptive, and that's not that doesn't mean that the seller online is being malicious. It just means that it's very difficult for us buyers to tell. And I've mentioned this in other videos as well, which is that if you've got a tiny little lady hand holding perhaps just an ordinary sized palm stone, that is going to look very big in her hand. If it's a man with hands like spades, that might make it look tiny. So you look at the dimensions of the product that you're buying. Even if it's a tumbled stone, if they're selling individually, you want to know, well, hey, is it 2.5 centimeters by 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter wide? You want to know those things, and you want to know the weight of the product that you're buying as well, even if it's said as approximately. What I tend to find, though, is that when they are selling tumbles individually, they will generally say between, what have I seen that has actually caught me off guard? I think I bought some tumbled stones where it said between 1.5 to 2.5 centimetres, and most of them arrived and they were probably 1.5. And I thought, well, I had hoped to get a bit of variety there. And personally, when it comes to tumbles, I actually like them to be a bit on the larger side than the smaller side. So I think that's about all I can give you there. But I do invite you to give me your information or to make a comment and let us know what your buying experiences have been. So when it comes to the spiritual and metaphysical benefits, it's going to support a person connecting to the higher realms. So if you were to look at the chakra system, you'd potentially automatically think, well, how does that work? It's not connected to the brain chakra, or it is the crown chakra, and it's not connected to the third eye. Well, that's true, but it is connected to Mother Earth, through the base chakra and the earth chakra. And once you connect with the earth chakra or Mother Earth, then you're able to channel energy up and down, and it does tap in and open up the psychic gifts. Stumbling again on my words, sorry. So it is a gentle activation of those psychic gifts, apparently. And when you connect to Mother Earth, I forgot to mention this bit, you're actually connecting to the higher realms at the same time, because that's a yin yang. And the other reason I associate it with the higher realms is because, of course, there's that aura and chakra activations. And I believe that's the system, not just the emotional body, but probably the most impactful upon the heart and the emotions. So it's said to raise awareness of self and any limitations that you put on yourself, and to recognize any barriers that you have to achieving your highest potential. So a lot of the time people are working on energy as a prime example and wondering why they are unable to make wealth. And it could be that they've got poverty mentality. So it's about purify those kind of beliefs, because they become barriers. They can lend themselves to self-sabotage. Other things is the expansion of knowledge and awareness of universal workings and interactions, if you like, an expanded capacity to see the big picture and how those smaller details of the big picture interact together, which could be the synchronicity. It's supposed to support the achievement of abundance and joy, by the way, and the manifestation of a person's dreams and desires that brings this abundance through to them. It is believed to be a balancer of the masculine and feminine energies and to harmonize relationships, which I would believe too, given that it supports the balance of yin yang. For those people that are creative, it's supposed to support artists and designers to have a better, I guess, how would you describe it? To enhance their appreciation or capacity to work with colour, I guess, and just to promote it and just bring that creative energy into your aura. And you can do this better when you use a talisman. Apparently, the other thing about Ruby Zoisite is if you're actually trying to do healing or direct healing to yourself or other people, it will go to the area of need without you actually telling it, can you heal my liver or whatever. I've got shoddy knees. Can you fix my knees? Or however it is that you approach it, you would just actually do the healing for the mind, body, and spirit, and then bring the energy of that crystal into your own body aura. It'll just go to where it needs to go. It's also said to enhance astral projection and astral travel, activation of the Kundalini, which is the life force, and that occurs through the Earth Star chakra. Basically, useful for meditation. I've already said about transmuting negative energy to positive, so be pretty good as an ornament in your house. Said to support past life recollection as well, and access to the soul and cellular memory, um, to find those areas for healing. Um, when it comes to positivity, it just encourages positive thinking and self-speak, so those critical judgments that we hold of each other, it promotes of each other and potentially within ourselves. It encourages to convert that to positive thinking through cleansing the emotional etheric body. So I'll try and whip through this. When it comes to the physical body, it's supposed to support the circulatory system through the blood circulation, of course, blood sugar to keep it healthy. If you've got high blood pressure problems, then you could wear ruby zoisite as a talisman, and that can actually just be as a pendant on a necklace. If you've got respiratory problems, it's said to support healthy lungs, and if you've got breathing disorders, perhaps asthma or whatever, you could use it once again as a talisman and a pendant or even a bracelet, as long as you're wearing it on your person, and then keeping it in your environment. Now, I actually forgot to mention the disclaimer here. When it comes to crystal care or crystal use, just remember there's no evidence to support any of these claims, and you would not be disengaging from your treating professionals if you've got a chronic type condition as well. But you would do no harm to yourself by working with the crystals in whatever way you feel drawn, even if that's just wearing it. But you definitely, crystals are a complement, not a treatment, standalone treatment. Okay, so back to the benefits. The endocrine system can be benefit through being balanced, all the organs that assist them with this process, and also organ function, the way your organs are operating, if they're sluggish with the processing or blocks and barriers to absorbing minerals and that kind of thing. It's said to support all of that kind of function. People with allergies may benefit from wearing ruby zoisite, and if they struggle from conditions such as depression and that kind of thing, mood disorders, there can be a balance there as well. It's said to be beneficial for people who struggle with things like fatigue and exhaustion, and even hyperactivity. So, if somebody's got ADD or ADHD, they might consider wearing it. And for those people that maybe are suffering from chronic fatigue or recovering from an illness or post surgery, just to get things back in balance for them, then yes, they might consider wearing and using it as well. It's a revitalizer. Um, what else have I got? Just that it's also supposed to be beneficial for women's health. And a reminder too that a lot of the conditions such as depression, that's to do, there's a physical component to that as well a lot of the time, which is to do with neural pathways, and also brain chemistry. So conditions such as anxiety and depressive can be actually physical conditions that are felt on an emotional level. So, speaking of emotions, the attributes of ruby zoisite for the way we think and feel is that it's supposed to stimulate the brain, support focus and concentration if you struggle with that, and to support lateral thinking, which is this expanded way of thinking. It's thinking outside the box. So, it helps to process and analyze new information, and it's supposed to support repatterning. These are the other attributes we're talking about. And when we talk about repatterning, of course, we're talking about neural pathways, changes to behavior, changes to thinking, changes to the way that we feel. If people are writers and struggling with writer's block, it's supposed to actually remove those blocks. It's supposed to also be very beneficial or recommended for people with emotional wounds such as trauma, PTSD, grief, and loss, and to be able to release the darker type emotions, the fear based ones, the angry ones, and that emotional pain in a healthy way. So it encourages strength and hope and peace as we go through these difficulties. Where love is concerned, it's supposed to, beneficial for those people that have been going through mourning of a loved one to start with. I forgot to mention that. And dissolve the illusions of feeling unloved and separate from everybody else. Certainly with love, builds the empathy and compassion towards other people. I would say also, and I haven't put this on thing, encourages forgiveness. Okay, so when we're looking at pink crystals, we're talking about love and more self-compassion, for an example. When we're talking about green crystals, such as the zoisite here, we're talking about love and forgiveness of other people who we feel may have hurt and betrayed us. So it's got that real forgiving aspect to it. So it inspires also passion and vitality, and it's also recommended for people that are doing group projects, working together towards a goal as part of creating a sense of unity and togetherness. There's that shared approach to life. So because ruby zoisite is actually fairly durability from that hardness perspective, it is actually perfectly suited to be jewellery items, and that can be your bracelets, it can be your beaded necklaces, it can be the carved rings, where you've got them set in silver or any form of metal really, silver or gold, that will be fine. We see a lot of more palm stones, I think, within the metaphysical industry. Palm stones or tumbles are quite common, and so are towers. And as I said before, I didn't actually say this before. Okay, so because the rocks individually are going to carry the same attributes, but I'm trying to think. So, for example, if the ruby is quite pink in color, that's going to really be working towards self love and passion for life in a very gentle way, very gentle and subtle. If it's brighter, it's going to be more passionate, it's going to be more sensory. It will be more romantic, shall we say. It's going to encourage more of that. With the zoisite towers that are the lighter green, that's going to focus more on your higher heart chakra, which is linked with the mental health conditions. So you would basically determine what it is that you're trying to use it for, what attributes you're trying to tap into. So if it is forgiveness, if you've been suffering from betrayal, then you want to have ruby zoisite that's got a bit of depth with the green. Okay, that's just for example. If it is the lighter green, that's going to help with conditions such as anxiety and the phobias. Okay, what can I say here? So yes, you can have it in the environment as an ornament, especially if it's towers or in the rough, basically to create ambient healing energy around. You can meditate with it to try and establish any underlying causes through that process of self-reflection. Palm stones, of course, is always good, but you can use the spheres as well. That would be good for that. And you can even use your tumbled stones. They don't have to be big rocks when we're working with them. Jewelry, of course, I mentioned. You can use it in grids if you want. I don't perceive that there would be a problem using it for an elixir, but I would recommend from a professional perspective that people do the non-water immersion. It takes a little bit longer to make the elixirs if you do it this way, but there's no contamination if there is some kind of bacteria on the crystal itself. But how do you use it? What do you use it for? That would be interesting. So, as I stated on the previous slide, I probably got ahead of myself that um, the shades of ruby zoisite is going to be determined basically within the context of the person that I'm giving messages to. If you're new to the channel, you might not be aware that when I deliver my services, I have a bowl of crystals there, and I call it a lucky dip, and I just ask them to center themselves, ask their guides to direct their hand to the perfect crystal for them, and then they will pick it and I'll give a message to them. So when I say it's going to be contextual, if they picked out a ruby zoisite that had a lot of the light green, I would be saying, look, the message for you is basically it's time to learn some anti-stress techniques. To focus on the breath would be a start, and to try and stay present. So grounding and centering is actually pivotal for people that have got high anxiety and that kind of thing. So yeah, I guess I've explained that. If it's got more of the dark green, I say forgiveness and betrayal, but sometimes forgiveness and betrayal sensations can apply to being basically a crisis of faith, feeling let down by the universe and why me and why my loved one. So it would help to heal that loss process and the grieving. So once again, like I say, it's going to depend on who the person is and the actual crystal that they pull out the bowl. So when it comes to crystal care, of course, this is stock standard, which is, try and avoid the use, well, definitely avoid the use of harsh chemicals on your crystals because it will actually damage them. I think ultrasonic cleansers would be okay. They're those little machines. I can't remember. I've never had one because I'm not drawn to them. I just see people recommending them and not recommending them because they can actually damage crystals. I know you don't use them necessarily for jewelry because a lot of the jewelry is actually manufactured these days. I'm talking about gemstones. You probably could do it with your tumbled stones, but why would you? I couldn't be bothered. All you've got to do is just get a damp cloth and wipe them and then dry them off with a dry cloth. Of course, it's got to be soft cloths. When it comes to water immersion, I would imagine there's not going to be a problem with that. Certainly not the crystals that I'm looking at, but you may know differently. What else can I say? Look, if it's got intricate carving in it, like sometimes they will create ornaments out of ruby zoisite as well. You might even need to get a fine toothbrush to that with a mild detergent. Just give it a gentle rinse under lukewarm or tepid water and then dry it off with a soft cloth again. What else can I say? When it comes to energizing and charging and cleansing the crystals, look, my fallback option is always selenite, okay, because that acts as a purifier and removes any negative energy. And you will, if you're a metaphysical worker, you will absolutely need to make sure that you clear and cleanse and recharge your crystals energetically for use if they are ruby zoisite. It's not what we call a self-cleaner, whereas selenite is. But yeah, selenite is just my fallback option. But of course, I've got a video up on what you can do to energize your crystals. And there are many, many, many different ways. So you would just go as you feel guided to do there. Oh, and I'll put a link to that video, the one for clearing, cleansing and charging and the other stuff, in the description of the video here today. So, my friends, thank you for being part of my journey today. I'm going to close it out now and just leave it with you to give me feedback, have a chat, put up your own opinions, views, how you use it, what your experiences are. All of that kind of thing would be appreciated. If any of the content has been useful for you, I always appreciate a thumbs up to know that I'm doing the right thing. If you like it, if you want to subscribe, of course, I'd be grateful. But I know what I'm like. I don't subscribe to every channel that I visit regularly because I don't want to have all the notifications. You know what it's like. You end up being spammed out. So I shall leave that in your discretion. Oh, I'm just dreadful today with speaking. I might need to start working with the throat chakra, I think. But anyway, look, have a wonderful day, blessed day. Take care of yourself. See you on the next video, okay? Hopefully. See you at the yarning on Sunday. Thank you. Bye-bye for now.